"How long do you plan to leech off me?" he demanded, his voice dripping with contempt. Though I had anticipated this confrontation, the idea of selling all our belongings seemed absurd. I couldn't fathom how the money from such actions could be of any real value. The term leech was especially unacceptable. Was I really leeching off him? How could he even use such a word? With a dismissive laugh, I looked at him with disdain and calmly declared, "Then I'll leave." His eyes widened in surprise. "Are you serious? Don't blame me if you regret it. And make sure you take the kids with you." He doubted my ability to make it on my own, but I met his gaze with unwavering confidence. "There's nothing for me here anymore. I can live on my own strength. You'll be the one with regrets." My name is Rose. I'm a 40-year-old housewife who married young at 22 and had my first son at 25. Before I knew it, I was blessed with 5 children. The oldest is now 15, and the youngest is 7, making our home bustling with energy. Managing the household's vibrancy has become part of my role, but it's a challenge to keep from being overwhelmed by the children's liveliness. My husband, Ken, is 2 years older than me. We dated through college and married shortly after graduation. He came from the countryside, simple and kind, and I fondly remember introducing him to city life. After graduation, Ken started working at a real estate company, and I joined a furniture manufacturer. Shortly after, he proposed, and we started a family. I quit my job after our first child and focused on raising our growing family. Ken's success in sales seemed promising, and his income provided a sense of security. Little did I know that trouble was brewing in our marriage. Around 7 years ago, when our youngest was born, Ken's attitude began to shift. His once stable job started faltering due to stagnation in housing sales, exacerbated by rising living costs. Late nights became the norm, and coming home after midnight was routine. "There's no bonus this year. How are we supposed to get by?" he vented, frustrated with his company and superiors. "It's impossible. That guy's all about the numbers and doesn't understand the essence of selling houses. I'm sick of it." In these times, all I could do was stay out of his way and support him quietly. "Rose, you should be more grateful. I'm the one supporting you," he said, his anger directed at me. I trembled in fear. "I am grateful," I replied. "But if that's the case, can't you cook better? Your cooking lacks flavor and isn't delicious." "I thought too much seasoning might be bad for health," I responded. "Shut up. I'm the most important person in this house. Are you defying what your husband says?" he snapped. Overwhelmed by his rough demeanor, I reluctantly added more seasoning to the dish. Ken, once gentle and appreciative, had become arrogant and demanding. His pride in supporting the family had twisted his character. As I stood in the kitchen, anxious about our future, I wondered what could be done. His stubbornness and sense of superiority seemed to be growing with age. 7 years have passed, and Ken's behavior has only worsened. "Hey, wash my clothes quickly. Can a full-time housewife even manage that?" he barked. "Is dinner not ready yet? It's only natural to prepare a meal before the master of the house returns. How many times must I say it for you to understand?" Despite being overwhelmed with household chores and caring for the children, Ken's complaints never ceased. "I'm tired from working," he would say. The economic downturn had affected his workplace, with performance fluctuating and some colleagues being laid off. His salary, stagnant for years, had not increased. Meanwhile, our expenses grew with the children's needs and desires for new games and cell phones, leaving me feeling increasingly burdened and unappreciated. While I didn't grant every request, I did make sure to buy what the children wanted for Christmas. I'm grateful for the courage I had back then when Ken's company began to struggle around 7 years ago. As a full-time housewife, I found a hobby that brought me daily joy, and unexpectedly, it started generating income. What began as a way to vent my frustrations with Ken's blaming has surprisingly become a significant source of financial support for our family. Life is unpredictable, and having my own source of income has made me appreciate being able to purchase things I want with my own money. For a long time, I kept this new income stream a secret from Ken. I've been using it to buy the children's birthday and Christmas presents, which he probably assumes are covered by his earnings. Ken has always been careless with money and not one to manage our finances, so I've handled our budget since the start of our marriage. I saw no need to clarify that these gifts came from my earnings. Having an income that I control has provided me with immense mental relief. Despite the challenges of earning money, the satisfaction of seeing my work appreciated is unparalleled. especially when compared to the silent dedication required for housework and childcare. It often feels like housework and childcare are the toughest jobs. I'm sincerely thankful to my past self for diving into this new hobby. One day, Ken came home on time, which was unusual, and in a surprisingly good mood. He made an unexpected offer. Tomorrow I've taken the day off. I'll handle the housework, so why don't you go out and take a break for once? Ken's offer was a pleasant surprise, and as a full-time homemaker, opportunities to take a break are rare. His sudden kindness was puzzling, and I worried about whether it was really okay to leave the housework to him. Are you sure you'll be able to manage? I asked. Ken, with an optimistic tone, assured me, it's fine, I'm an adult, I can handle the housework myself. Relieved, I agreed to take him up on his offer. Even though his motives were unclear, I was genuinely happy to be given the chance to go out, trusting his words. The next day, I decided to take a break and refresh myself. I received a message from an old university friend who wanted to catch up after a long time, so I went out to meet her. We had a lovely time reminiscing about our college days and chatting about our children. During a break in our conversation, my friend's tone grew serious. There's something I need to talk to you about, she said quietly, making sure no one else could overhear. She was one of the few friends who knew a lot about me and Ken, and as she began discussing him, I instinctively sat up straighter, eager to listen. I'm really sorry if I'm misunderstanding, but I felt it was important to tell you, she said, her brow furrowed with concern. Her words left me shocked and unable to hide my surprise. A surge of disbelief washed over me, yet in light of Ken's recent behavior, I couldn't help but feel that things were starting to make sense. His sudden offer to handle the housework, which was almost unheard of, especially since it wasn't my birthday or Mother's Day, had seemed suspicious. After hearing my friend's revelations, Ken's peculiar actions suddenly seemed to have a motive behind them. I'm sorry for bringing this up so suddenly, my friend said apologetically. I didn't want to lie to you. Thank you for telling me, I replied, feeling a mix of gratitude and shock. We promised to meet again soon and parted ways. Having learned an astonishing truth during what was supposed to be a rare break, I contemplated the future for myself and my children. Returning home, I was greeted by an unsettling sight. It was past 5:00 p.m., and I needed to start preparing dinner. The elementary school children should have been home by now. As I entered the house and removed my shoes at the entrance, I walked into the living room, only to find it completely empty. The furniture and appliances that should have been there were gone. The children were likely in their rooms doing homework, as they were not in the living room. I stood frozen at the entrance, bewildered and unsure of what to make of the scene before me. I heard Ken's voice behind me. Oh, you're back already? He said, smiling for some reason as he glanced at me. What happened here? Why is all the furniture gone? I asked, my confusion growing. Ken sighed heavily before responding. The furniture was just in the way, so I sold it all. His casual reply only deepened my confusion. Why would you suddenly decide to sell everything? The furniture and appliances were part of our home, I said, trying to grasp the situation. Ken shrugged. I needed the money. I bought those things with the money I earned, so it's my right to do whatever I want with them. I nodded, acknowledging that he had a point, but added, yes, that's true, but we're married. Such decisions usually involve consulting with your partner. Ken's cold gaze and disdainful tone made my head spin. How long do you plan to leech off me? He said with a laugh, as if looking down on me. I have feared that something like this might happen one day, but selling all our belongings felt like madness. I couldn't understand how he could place any value on the money from such actions, and the term leech was particularly hard to accept. Am I leeching off you? I asked, my voice steady. How could you even use that word? With a look of disdain, I calmly declared, then I will leave this place. His eyes widened in surprise. Are you serious? Don't blame me if you regret it. And make sure you take the kids with you, he said, doubting my ability to manage on my own. I looked back at him firmly, confidence in my voice. There's nothing for me here anymore. I can live on my own strength. You'll be the one with regrets. Turning on my heel, I headed toward the children's rooms. What's wrong, Mom? Are we moving? They asked, each of them surprised by the sudden news. The younger ones, not fully understanding the situation, bounced around excitedly at the thought of a move. With almost nothing left to pack, we left the house quickly. What about Dad? One of them asked. Dad will stay behind, I replied. Our youngest, just 7, seemed to sense something about his absence but chose not to ask any further questions. I found a hotel that could accommodate all 6 of us and decided to spend the night there. The children were thrilled at the prospect of a rare hotel stay, and their excitement made the experience feel less daunting. We enjoyed our night and eventually drifted off to sleep. The next day, after dropping the kids off at school, I headed to a real estate agency, motivated by the recent upheaval to find a more spacious home. I bravely inquired about purchasing a tower apartment. The agent showed me several options, and I ultimately decided on a luxurious tower mansion worth $1 million. It was newly constructed and ready for occupancy within a week, which made my decision easier. After finalizing the purchase, I busied myself with arranging the loan and managing various tasks related to the move. Despite the whirlwind of activity, I felt a surge of excitement about this fresh start. It had been years since we had last moved, and the prospect of living in a hotel for the next week felt like a thrilling adventure. The children seemed to enjoy it as well, which was a relief. On the day we moved into our new high-rise apartment, we arrived empty-handed, but the children were awestruck. "Wow, is this our new home?" they exclaimed. "It's amazing. It's so spacious." They eagerly began exploring the new space with wide-eyed curiosity. The property boasted excellent soundproofing, making it a comfortable living environment for our large family. Breathing in the fresh air of our new home, I felt a renewed sense of purpose and excitement about starting over. In the following days, we gradually acquired furniture and set up our living space. The children quickly adapted to our new life, enjoying the stunning night views from our windows. I felt a newfound freedom compared to when I had been living under Ken's influence. One Sunday, 2 months after moving in, I was relaxing with a cup of tea in the living room when the intercom rang. At that time, the children were happily playing in their rooms, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of contentment in our new beginning. I answered the intercom and was startled to see Ken's face on the monitor. "I finally found you," he said, his voice demanding. "Why are you living in a place like this? Open the door and let me in." I hesitated, unsure how to respond. I didn't want to let him into the apartment, but causing a scene in the lobby would inconvenience the other residents. Since we were still legally married, ignoring him entirely wasn't an option. Eventually, I decided it would be best to let him come up and speak with me. I pressed the button to open the entrance. It took him a while to reach my floor, likely confused by the elevator system. 10 minutes later, I heard him shouting from the entrance, and I hurried to open the door. "What's the meaning of this?" he demanded as he stepped inside, his voice filled with disbelief. "Why are you living in such an expensive apartment? It doesn't make sense for a housewife to be in a place like this." Ken's harsh words and insults were met with silence. The children, alerted by their father's voice, briefly peeked out of their rooms before my eldest son guided them back. "You were the one who told me to leave," I responded calmly. "I did as you asked and brought the children with me. So, you have no right to complain." Ken seemed unable to accept my independence. He had never managed the household finances and was oblivious to how money was being spent. "You think you were supporting the family, but your income alone couldn't support us," I continued. "Your company was failing, and you were giving me fake pay slips." Ken took a step back, stunned. "How did you know?" he asked, clearly shocked that his deception had been uncovered. I sighed, recalling how he had provided falsified pay slips showing a lower amount than what he actually earned. Once I took over managing our finances, I discovered the truth. It's impossible for me, as the one managing our finances, not to notice discrepancies, I explained. Records showed that more than half of the deposit was withdrawn immediately. I assumed you needed some pocket money, but the $680 left over seemed odd when your actual pay should have been $2,700. Ken protested. "It's my money. What's wrong with spending it how I want?" "Exactly," I agreed. "But you never gave me any money to spend freely, so I decided to earn my own. I've become a popular influencer among housewives. What started as a hobby has turned into something much bigger. My video channel now has 1 million subscribers." Ken's eyes widened in disbelief. 1 million subscribers? You're an influencer? "Yes," I confirmed calmly. "I focus on how a full-time housewife can efficiently manage household chores, and my channel has become quite successful." Ken's astonishment was evident, and the children, curious about the commotion, peeked out of their rooms once again. It felt almost like a scene from a storybook, with Ken struggling to grasp the reality of my newfound success. I continued posting videos showcasing various homemaking techniques, which resonated with many people in similar situations. The positive feedback poured in, with comments like, "This is a great idea," and "I tried the cleaning product you recommended." The number of followers on my channel grew rapidly as a result. Last month, I received an offer from a TV producer, which gave me the opportunity to appear on television. The income from this hobby had become substantial enough to cover our living expenses and allow me to buy things for my family. I had kept this success a secret, anticipating that he might oppose it. But I've been contributing to our household with my earnings, so you shouldn't have any complaints. Ken, however, was incredulous. "It's unbelievable that you didn't tell me. We're married. Important things should be shared," he argued, raising his voice. At this point, I decided to reveal a long-held secret. "Oh, and why didn't you tell me about your affair?" I asked. "I met an old university friend recently. She mentioned seeing you enter a hotel with another woman. That's what my friend told me the day I left." "What affair? What are you talking about?" Ken asked, clearly flustered. "I have proof," I said, showing him the photo my friend had sent me. Ken's face went pale as he looked at the image. "Why do you have this?" he asked, shocked. "Well, obviously to have an advantage in case we get divorced," I replied. "Divorce?" Ken seemed flustered and unprepared for this turn of events. "Please don't take it to court. I beg you. You drove me out of the house to live with another woman. You have no excuses left. If you refuse, I'm prepared to take this to court," I said firmly. Ken's pleas grew more desperate, but my children, who had come out of their rooms, dragged him toward the entrance. They, too, had lost trust in him. I couldn't help but laugh at their determination. Together, we successfully ushered Ken out of the apartment, applauding loudly as he left. As promised, I sent Ken the divorce papers, and he signed them. After the divorce was finalized and I received the alimony, I learned that Ken had been falsifying his pay slips and misusing company funds. His mistress, who had extravagant spending habits, had been a scam artist, and Ken had been completely duped. Now, with Ken having lost his job, his mistress, and his family, he was aimlessly drifting through life. Despite his predicament, I couldn't bring myself to feel any sympathy for him. Meanwhile, my children and I are thriving in our new home. My media exposure has increased, and my income continues to rise steadily. At this rate, I'll be able to pay off the mortgage early. In this new chapter of my life, I am committed to living authentically and true to myself.